Okay, this happens. I'm doing a 2002 Ford Escape and had to do the transaxle, which in itself was a bit of an issue, but in so doing, I managed to separate the Spicer drive shaft. So you can see the dilemma here. It's split from the carrier case, and there are all the balls come out of it, and it's come right off the end of the shaft, which is a spiral thing. And now what has to happen is I have to pull all of that off, clean it up, put it back together, and put it back on. So this little tutorial will be dedicated to that. First thing you want to do here is on the end of the shaft, there's a circlip on the end of the shaft that holds that spiral gear on. You have to deal with that and then pull the gear off itself. Then this thing here, the carrier for the casing for the entire thing, has a cap on the end. You're gonna have to kick that off too and clean up all of that stuff. So off we go. Maybe you can see that little clip. I use two screwdrivers, one to hold the one end, but it's right here. Whoops. Then this will come off. You probably have to maybe get a slap or two, whatever, but it should come off of there. Just use a rubber mallet or something. Here, I just used a screwdriver or something like that. Anything, whatever you can get in there, and just kick that end off, and this will be the carriage you need to take out and clean up. Clean everything up all nice and clean again. Alrighty, so now, after the cleanup thing, this is what you end up with. Your carrier and your bucket and your 6 balls. This one has 6 balls as opposed to 5. And then over here is your gear. So there's a few key things to tell you about, make your life a little easier, and I'll get to them right away. So now, this is something you really want to pay attention to. You can't just put these damn things back in. You have to actually line it up. Now, I'll get out of the way here. If you look at this, you'll see that I've marked this guy here and also marked this guy here. This will be the lineup that you use. This is going to be static for these 6-ball things. They made them pretty well that way. So you need to mark those that way, because when you assemble, you want to make sure that those 2 marks line up in the assembly. And this is going to get tricky from here on in. So first thing you need to do is put in 3 balls and the case or the carrier. So give me a second, we'll get to that. As in other videos that I've seen, you want to start on the side like this. Then you take your carrier and you put that baby in there. And you can put 3 balls in. We'll get to that part. Let me just get this all straightened up here. Now the reason I said to mark these things in that position is because if you have the pieces marked exactly as I showed you, you shouldn't have a problem with putting them together. I mean, the cases are different on one end to the other. If you look at it, there's an indent for the cup, and then there's a flat side that the bolts actually coming through. So if you mark them just how I tell you, then you shouldn't have any problem. So anyways, as it stands, I have this marked You can see it there. And then it's also marked right here. So I'm going to go ahead and put the gear in. Yeah, okay. So before everybody gets all cranked out because I didn't get really specific, if you put that mark that we had on there up in the top off to the right a little bit, you can actually fit 3 balls in there that will be spread apart, so you can actually put the gear in. And then, keeping your marks on the same side, of course, you can just get this damn thing in there. It'll go in, but I'm doing this with my phone, so I won't be able to hold the phone and show you. But take my word for it, it does happen. There we have 3 balls in and the gear put in. Yeah, it does fit in there okay. So there's a particular thing when you're putting these balls in that kind of have a really good bearing, is that you can pull the sleeve almost all the way out. Watch where the balls are, of course, and that gear in the center, you can pull it out to get access to the balls. And the one trick to it will be, when you're pulling those carriages and the gear out, is that you want to keep them as level coming straight out as you can, so that at the very end, maybe you just got to tilt the gear just down a little bit to fit the balls in the ends, and those balls go in these little slots right here. You'll see them all the way around. At this point, it kind of gets to be a pain in the butt, but you got to have a lot of patience, and you're probably going to explode them 3 or 4 times, because I did when I first was working out how to get this done. So all I can say from here on in, buddies, you just need patience. So going after ball number 4 now. Okay, this is kind of a view of what I'm talking about. Has to be on the side. And you got to try and keep this thing as straight. It's not very straight right now, obviously, but you keep it so that you can get access to that hole and the taper that where you can fit the balls in. I'm doing this by myself, so you just have to take my word for it that it does happen. There you go. See, it does happen. One little helper thing, I don't know if you got a roll of tape sitting around, like a roll of electrical tape, you can use it to help you balance the end of that thing, because it's fairly heavy. If you're working just with your 2 hands and you don't have 12 fingers, well, yeah, you could actually pull it out. So it's just a matter of doing what's comfortable for you. But there's ball number 4. A little tip when you're doing this is, if your balls are tight going in, you could shove in this center gear a little bit to give you a little bit more room, but as you can see right here, it is going in. But yeah, move this center thing in. But yeah, as a rule, keep it square and straight. I better save myself here. Be back. Okay, a little wiggling, and yeah, there it is. That's ball number 4. Now we're going to tilt her a little bit, and we're going to start working. Start from the center there a little bit, moving that a little bit at a time. Same thing with the carriage. Fingers got to cooperate with you. Move the carriage out a little bit, and yeah, get it to the point where you can actually put that ball in. Be back again. Yeah, maybe I'm making this look a little easier, but if you look at the lineup there, you can see that the shaft is just down, the shaft, or rather the center thing, gear, yeah, that's it, is pretty much coming straight out, and the carriage for the balls are a little bit of an angle just to keep it sort of in the casing itself, and give you just enough room to squeeze that ball in. And if you have to push it just a little bit to put it in, keeping it together with your fingers, it'll give you enough spring with your fingers and your skin and all that stuff to get her in there. But yeah, that's what it's going to look like. Ball number 5. And from here, it gets really, really tricky. But the rules all apply the same anyways, is that you want to get your shaft, your gear out far enough that you can slip it in a hole with in that little indent to put the balls on, and get it onto the gear and keep it all together, and that'll be another little push. So yeah, on to ball number 6. It's probably a good thing to say, but every time you do a ball, you want to slip it into the carriage carefully and get everything reset again, and then start working out, getting it out to put in your 6th ball. This is what I mean about tricky. This thing is, you know, if you're working your gear out far enough and then your casing out far enough to try and fit that ball in the top there, it's going to get pretty drastic. So at this point you want to be careful, otherwise you'll be doing it again. But count on it, you're going to be doing it again till you get it right. Just the right amount of wiggle and a little bit of jiggle. Yeah, that tape does come in handy. You might want to put something on top of it to space it. But yeah, now the 6 balls are in and the fun begins. You got to wiggle and play with it, and moving that carriage around and the gear on the inside is going to give you the clearances you need to do that. But you want to probably do this with both hands, and yeah, have fun. It'll happen. Oh yeah. Once you do get it in, lay it flat. Okay, once it does go, it'll probably surprise you, because those are balls in there and they will move around a little bit, and that carriage will catch on the side and bind a little bit, whatever. But the trick to this is working the sleeve and putting it in as straight as possible, and then moving that gear in the center in a little bit more to give your balls a little bit more clearance. But it's done. There it is. Okay, the other thing to remember too is if you didn't get it right, you wouldn't be able to do this. It's together, all the balls are in, but this has to flex. It just has to, otherwise you're going to destroy stuff. So yeah, this is where we get to the assembly. We're done with assembling this stupid thing, and from here, once again, I'd suggest putting some tape on. I'll show you in a second. Okay, carefully lay it flat. Carefully. It's a bit of a pain in the butt, but starting from the back, flat, tape one side. I'd suggest putting it across the holes so you don't end up having to mess with any bolts when you're assembling. But yeah, all the way around. And believe me, when you're doing that, you want to make sure that you keep a hand to that, because that gear is heavy. It'll stretch that tape. So yeah, I did that one way, and then I'm going to go the other way with it as well, so that we have a reasonably firm grip on things. Okay, so we have it assembled. See, our marks are lined up. Everything is as it should be. Well, trust me, it's as it should be. If you have this set up exactly like it is, you're not going to have a whole lot of problems assembling. But yeah, it can be done, and this thing took all of, like, I don't know, maybe half an hour to 45 minutes to clean up, blah blah blah, and get it back together. But don't be discouraged if it takes you 5 hours like it did me the first time. And I had to look at other videos and stuff to see the lineup of something that was almost done, blah blah. I guess these guys might have pulled it apart to do balls, because those balls, yeah, that's another thing to remember too, is when you're looking at the different parts, if you're seeing any scarring or pitting on the balls themselves, you want to replace them. Might as well do that before you stick it all back together and have to replace them because they're binding. Because boy, these things bind anyways without grease on them, and I'm doing this dry, so those are the little things to keep in mind when you're busy doing this. But yeah, that's basically what it looks like when I'm done. Now to take it out and go reassemble it. That should be fun. So here we are, back at ground zero there. I have a roll of tape, plastic tape. I have a plan. Time to assemble this baby, and then we're on it. First thing you don't want to do is yeah, get that gear on the shaft and put your clip on. Now I use plastic tape because it's easy to work around. You can pull it to one side or whatever, do whatever you have to do. But yeah, onwards.